like every week I would have like four or five different ideas for a business or a service or a product that I think is going to change the world, and I'll do my little bit of research on it,
Yeah.
put some numbers down and everything. Same thing happened with Kosha. We realized that there's a real need and a gap in the market. My wife, the committed person, understands that there is that initial a little bit of resistance that you are going to face, right? No one wants to get up early in the morning and go work
Yes.
out or go to yoga. But he also
Right.
understands that once he can get through those first 3 or 4 minutes or those first 5 minutes, then it's bliss, right? Then something switches
I
on in your
agree.
mind, something switches on in your body, and then it's just flow. What you're saying is that if you're willing to put in the effort, right, you can be sure that when you use our products, our services, they will provide you with the necessary comfort you need or stability you need to enhance your practice and help you take those few extra steps.
Correct. So welcome to the Climapreneur Show, Alok. I'm extremely excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
So Alok, like really want to start like before actually going into what Kosha Yoga is, what kind of work it does. So I've always heard this thing that everything in life comes at a price. So for us, Climapreneur happened at a price. The price was the kind of sacrifices we made, the tough choices we made. I want to ask from you that what price did you pay for Kosha Yoga for making it the way it has turned out today?
Right, that's a really really interesting question. I'm glad you picked this one to
I
start the
know,
show off.
Alok. Thank you so much.
Yeah. But yeah, so the price we paid to build Kosha, that's interesting. Um, what I'll say is when we started Kosha, we had a very clear vision of what we wanted the brand to be. We always knew that it had to be authentic,
Yes.
because if it wasn't, it would be very evident to our market or our consumers that we're trying to force fit or force sell something that is not true
Yes.
to the cause that is yoga, right? So in order to build this authenticity, we decided to kind of grow Kosha in a very organic way. What this meant was we spent a lot of time trying to establish the brand, establish our ethos, establish our identity. So I think that's the sacrifice. What when we look back at our journey, we started in 2017, and people might think that in 4 or 5 years you've only come to this point, right? You hear about startups and brands exploding in 12 months, 18 months, etc. But for us, it was important to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
through the whole struggle of actually organically, entrenching ourselves in this yoga space before actually trying to grow, right? The idea was to lay our roots down to build a strong, firm base that we can then eventually build on. So what the price we paid for that was extremely slow growth. So from 2018 when we actually officially launched to 2020, right? It was very, 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 very slow. And to be honest, if Kosha was our only source of income or our only source of livelihood, we would not have food to eat, right? It was that slow, and that was by design. So we needed to actually allow the brand the time it needed, the kind of space it needed to be entrenched into people's lives. So yeah, while it has a flip side of now, the brand is considered to be a very authentic yoga brand. People see that things we talk about, the products we sell, are very true to the cause. This has come at a price of us spending 4 years building it. It's not like we started last year and here we are today enjoying the kind of recognition or love that the community shows us. It took us a long time to get here.
And like it's easier to say that 4 years, even someone says 1 year, 2 year, but it's not the number, it's the number of seconds you do that. Because there are moments I'm sure that you would have in your own journey when you have been extremely restless, extremely uneasy. There would have been happy moments, sad moments. So it's every second that goes into building the brand that which has turned out Kosha the way it has been today. So Alok, I want to know from you that I know, like I read about it because that you got like what led you to create Kosha, like what was your why. So I want to know from you that, like a lot of times we have this thing, like any general person, we always say that, okay, I hope that this product exists in the market. I hope this service gets existed in the market today. For example, I remember I was in one of the person's lives. He mentioned that, if in India we have franchises of Chole Bhature, just the way we had like, Burger King or, burgers or momos. So that would really work well. So I want to know from you, Alok, that you wanted, it was your personal need. What led you to create a business out of it? Because it's extremely risky. And what you did was a courageous thing. So what led you to the Kosha from your personal need to building it as a business?
Um, so ever since I can remember, I've been someone who always has wanted to start a business. So I come from a family where everyone, has their own line of work or their own businesses they've built. No one in my family does a corporate job. So since like a young age, I was very, very sure about the fact that I was going to do something on my own. I just didn't know what it was. And being a creative person, I have a ton of ideas, so like every week I would have like 4 or 5 different ideas for a business or a service or a product that I think is going to change the world, and I'll do my little bit of research on it,
Yeah.
put some numbers down and everything. Same thing happened with Kosha. We realized that there's a real need and a gap in the market. My wife, who's co-founder, she's also a yoga teacher, and this is a quick backstory for people who don't know. So yeah, she's a yoga teacher, and when she was doing her TTC, she wanted a new mat. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out a good mat that we could buy in India. Figure out that everything available back at that point in time was made out of toxic materials, harmful for you, very slippery. Performance was terrible, etc. So we knew that that there is a gap over here, and why aren't people really like what do people do when they want to go to yoga mat? We spent some time trying to understand that, and we figured that most people import mats which are ridiculously expensive. They cost you around 15, 16,000 by the time they reach India. And we figured that there has to be a better way to solve this problem, which is why we decided to actually focus on Kosha. But the actual why is, out of all the ideas that we have and all the businesses we keep discussing, the why as we picked Kosha is because we have a great understanding of who our customers are, or which people have the same kind of problem that we are facing. So I've been a fitness enthusiast and a sports person all my life. Heard me spend decades practicing yoga.
What sport did you play?
I play everything except for football. I play everything else. So I swim, I play tennis, I play squash, I play cricket, everything besides football, right? And Honey's been doing yoga for ages. So we kind of understand where people come from. Like I think there are only two types of people in this world. They're the committed people and the excited people. So someone who's excited would, say, okay, I'm going to go to yoga class Monday morning. When Monday morning comes around, snooze the alarm, probably miss the class. Yeah, I'll go tomorrow. Or he'll say, fine, I'll go to class today. He'll go have an amazing session, and the next day he'll snooze his alarm. The committed person understands that there is that initial a little bit of resistance that you are going to face, right? No one wants to get up early in the morning and go work out or go do yoga. But he also understands that once he can get through those first 3 or 4 minutes or those first 5 minutes, then it's bliss, right? Then something switches on in your mind, something switches on in your body, and then it's just flow, right? So with Kosha, we understood that feeling, and what we wanted to do through the brand was try and express that feeling to more people, right? Because we realized that if people can relate to this feeling, and they see that okay, what these guys are doing is, so it takes a certain amount of commitment, right, to get up every day, do yoga when you don't feel like doing it, or go work out when you don't feel like doing it. And that's something that we wanted to honor through Kosha, where we say that if you are committed enough to look past your struggles and the challenges and dedicate X amount of time to your practice, then we are committed enough to provide you products and services that help elevate your practice. That was the whole idea. And because there was so much synergy between our emotions and the product and the gap that we saw in the market, we decided that Kosha is the one that we should take forward. I'm not saying that once we decided this, everything was great and everything fell into place. there were a bunch of challenges and struggles, but we realized that because we knew, we had this emotional connect with the problem, we could solve it, and which is why we decided to get on the journey of trying to solve that problem. So yeah, that's how we chose, out of several ideas that I, yeah.
I think you tapped on the right thing because, the thing that you mentioned that, because for me, like my classes are generally, after I reach back home from the office, and sometimes, I travel, I have to change 3 metros. And when I reach home, I'm like, okay, now I have to do yoga. So should I just skip it? And I have to like, Shweta, kar lete hain, chalo. You have to. Some days get like it skips and everything happens, but the moment I'm on my mat and just the first 5 minutes goes by, I feel grateful. And the moment I finish the practice, I feel good that I didn't give up. And not only just it makes me feel good, but it just gives me a larger picture of life as well. Those few minutes on the yoga mat are like, this is life. This is like the true life there. So, that feeling I feel like a lot of people will resonate with, because there are a lot of people in my yoga class as well. And I cannot explain, Alok, that, what yoga means to them. So, there have been people like yoga has solved so many problems for people. Like, I'm not talking about weight loss, I'm talking about so many other things. And that connect that people have with yoga is, I think, very special. And commitment, obviously, is the number one thing. So, Alok, tell me this thing that, I have felt that yoga itself is a very pure form of livelihood and lifestyle, and it closely connects you to, your inner self and to the spiritual form. So, do you think adopting eco-friendly solution like yours, like Kosha, can maximize the effectiveness of yoga?
Um, Absolutely. Look, so I'm not gonna, make a claim saying that if you use our products or you use our services, you're gonna get more out of the practice, because that's not gonna happen. You're only gonna get as much out of the practice as you're willing to put in, right? What we are saying is that if you're willing to put in the effort, right, you can be sure that when you use our products, our services, they will provide you with the necessary comfort you need or stability you need to, enhance your practice and help you take those few extra steps, right? So to come back to your point, in terms of, yoga being a way of life and a way of business, that makes so much sense, because um, when we started, we were trying to kind of create a brand identity, and we figured out that yoga itself is such a good teacher, right? So yoga talks about ahimsa, which is something that is very intrinsically linked to the brand, right? So we make sure that all of our activities or actions or products actually have a positive impact on the environment. We don't cause harm to the planet through our processes, and we try and leave the planet a better place than we found it in, right? Yoga also talks about stability and calmness and security and taking your time, about concentrating on breath, focusing on that, slowing down things. So all of this is intrinsically kind of linked to what the brand stands for, and I think that has given us a real edge in terms of getting people's acceptance, because like you said, when you don't feel like going for your practice, but that those 5 minutes will change your mood, right? And then that will change your mindset for the next maybe 5 hours or 6 hours, and you'll be left feeling amazing. So a lot of people know that, right? At least the committed practitioners, they absolutely know that. But if they know that, we know that as well, and we come from the same line of thought, then they're, more accepting towards what we bring to the table in terms of kosha.
I think Kosha, like you can also say it, like could be one of the enablers of getting you more closer to that practice, because as we were talking earlier as well, that the kind of problems that Kosha products solve for yoga practitioners or for yoga starters. So I would like you to actually touch on some of the problem statements that you guys are solving with your product line.
Right, sure. I mean, that's probably one of the easiest things for me to do. So when we started off making mats only, and the reason we made mats is because, like I said earlier, at that point in time, the only mats available in India were mats made out of PVC or foam. These A are terrible for the environment. B, they're toxic. They're terrible for your skin. So you spend time sweating on the mat. There's so much friction between your skin and the mat, and you actually see kind of blisters or rashes, etc., happening from those materials. Once you're done with the mat, what do you do with it? I mean, it's not biodegradable. It just leads to a tremendous amount of waste being generated. When you sweat on these mats, they slip. When you put them down on the floor, they roll up from the sides or they slide all over the place. So, in terms of identifying pain points, that was very, very simple to do. Again, we just leveraged her needs experience. She's been doing this for more than a decade. So, she knew exactly what was wrong, with all the mats she's used over the past 10 years or so. And we made an exhaustive list of these and we figured that, okay, these are the pain points and this is how we need to these are the points we need to address and kind of work towards solving these problems. And we always wanted to do that in a way that was true to the teachings of yoga or yoga philosophy, in which, whatever your actions are, do not cause harm to your environment. So that was very, very well established in our minds. And then what happened from there is, as we grew and as we tried to start adding new products to our portfolio, we realized that these basic founding stones, right? These basic foundation stones have to be a part of those products also. So every time we launched a new product, we had to first go back and ask those questions as to, fine, it's solving a problem, okay, but how are we doing it? Are we doing it in a way that actually betters the environment, that, makes the world a better space or not? And if not, then it doesn't work for us. So then we go back to the drawing board. I'll give you a very quick example. So when the second product we made, right, was a very simple cover for a yoga mats, right? We started off with a very, very tiny budget. So we had, no scope to really experiment. We figured people are buying our mat, so they need a place to put the mat, right? So we make a nice cover for them. And it was fairly simple, straightforward product. But what we wanted to do is make sure that this product actually added value to people, right? Now, our customers for sure, because it's feature rich, but also to people who make it. So what we figured is that it would be easy for us to go to a factory, show them a couple of samples, go back and forth for a week or two and get this mass manufactured, but it was not really helping anyone, right, in this whole process. We figured that if we do that, when people travel, and especially in Bombay, because we're from Bombay, the rains are crazy. When they travel to yoga class, there's a chance of the cover getting wet, and the cover gets wet, the mat gets wet, and that kind of ruins your whole practice, right? So then we figure that, okay, it has to be waterproof, but to make it waterproof, that means it has to have a plastic lining, right? And then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of being sustainable. But we figured that, okay, what if, instead of looking at this problem from, instead of solving the problem through sustainable materials, what if we kind of find a way to integrate a sustainable livelihood into the product? So instead of going to a factory, what we did is we went to Dharavi. We spoke to a bunch of women over there, spent a lot of time in Dharavi. Dharavi is, for those who don't know, is one of the biggest slums in Asia. And it's, so people over there are obviously from the lower strata of society, low social, low standard of living, etc. So we went to Dharavi, we spent a lot of time over there, we spoke to the women over there, understood that, if we could figure out some way of providing them employment, then we're making a sustainable choice and we're making a tangible difference. Even though the product inherently is using plastic, we're still improving the lives of people in some way, right? So we spend 6 to 8 months training these women on how to actually, stitch cloth together. From there to walking markets with them and actually sourcing materials, to now having them a part of our family in such a way that they make a whole range of our products for us. So now our meditation cushions, which are organically sourced, I mean, the cotton is 100% organic, but we still employ these women because, it's such a win-win situation, right? So our meditation products are made by them, our eye pillows are made by them, they make our bags, and every time we launch a new product, we first go to them and ask them, hey, is this something you guys can make for us? Because, okay, it's more expensive to do it. It takes more time. The quality is not as good as a factory, but then there's such a huge difference that you're making in terms of people's lives, and it's so evident to see, right? Like from the time we first met these people to 2 years later when we meet them now, we can see that not only has their whole demeanor changed, though the way their families function have changed, the way their children are growing up has changed, and that is like intangible. You can't put a value on that. So that is very, very important to us as a brand. So while we are sustainable, the first thing that we keep in mind is performance of the product, right? Sustainability is number two. And in sustainability also, it's not only about using sustainable materials, it's about using sustainable manufacturing practices, about promoting
Yes.
all round development, trying to impact lives in a larger way. Because I understand there are a lot of problems that can't be solved by using just materials that are sustainable. It's either not as effective or too expensive, but there are so many ways in which you can, use the constraints that you have and still make a positive impact. So yeah,
Yes.
and the whole thinking, the whole thought process came about because the first founding stone was the philosophy of yoga. Try to be as inclusive as possible, and leave as little a footprint as possible. So the entire thinking, the brand's DNA has always revolved around this, and it continues to do so. Yeah, so I think yoga has been an integral part, and I think we could not be any other brand besides a yoga brand.
That's beautiful, Alok. And like three things I would like to mention here. First thing that, what you told about that the way, the covers have a plastic lining. So I love the fact that you are being transparent about it. I love the fact that you are sharing the challenges you have faced, because like it would have been very convenient for you to greenwash it and present it as purely 100% sustainable. So I definitely love that element about you. And also like the way I also agree on this thing that any good product has to give good customer experience. If it gives you a good customer experience, people will come back and buy it. And somewhere I've also observed this trend with a lot of people that although we care about environment, we care about sustainability, but a lot of people, for them it becomes secondary. First thing they care about is customer experience. So I guess that is again there. And third thing, I've always felt this thing that climate entrepreneurs, their success, their joy is shared. And now what you shared about working with people in Dharavi, it's just amazing. Like the way you're uplifting everyone, moving with them together step by step. So kudos to you, Alok, for doing that. Alok, I want to know you on this note that what does success means to you today, and has the definition of success changed for you, like what it meant before to what it means now?
So to be honest, right, I think, fairly simple kind of a guy. Success to me is just being content and being happy. Like, however cliche that sounds, is the truth. So, um, uh, like, for example, I before I switched to doing Kosha full time, I had another job. Right, I was actually running another business. It was a tech kind of hardware in the hardware space. Um, and even though like I was making more money than I'm making right now, I was from the inside there was no real sense of contentment or no real joy that work would give me. And so yeah, even from the outside, if I could afford better things, or if I could take fancier vacations, I don't think I was as successful then as I am now. So yeah, for me success is very simple. It's just being content with where you are in the present moment. Because if you look back and if you look forward, then there's a bunch of things that'll stress you out. But
Yes.
in the present moment, if you can go to sleep with a smile on your face, then I think yeah, it's pretty successful.
Yeah.
So Alok, I want to know this thing from you that while at this moment there are like so many fitness apparel brands in the market right now, what makes a consumer choose Kosha Yoga? Also, I want to know from you, because since now I also saw your Instagram where you have a highlight tab where your customers are actually mentioning their reviews. So I want to know that what are the reviews of your customers, especially regarding the kind of yoga pants you make or the yoga apparel you make.
Um, so yeah, I mean, this is a question we asked ourselves also before, actually launching our yoga apparel. I mean, the last thing the world needs right now is another athleisure brand, right? I mean, so we didn't want to simply have a range of clothes, because everyone has a range of clothes. But at the same time, we understood the value of kind of expanding our product portfolio to include, apparel, because before this, we were catering to a very niche clientele that only practiced yoga. Now, with the clothing, we are able to focus on a slightly larger audience that also works out, or also,
Yes.
is into fitness in different forms, right? But it was very important to have this conversation as to why we want to actually launch the clothing. And for the longest time, we didn't do it because the why wasn't strong enough. we understand the problem that the fashion industry has on the environment, right? The problem that it brings
Yeah.
to it in terms of carbon emissions, in terms of the amount of waste generated, in terms of all kinds of problems like choking the environment with excess carbon, etc. So we were always like with everything, like I mentioned earlier, also when we are launching a new product, it always we think about it as to how it impacts the environment in a positive way, right? So even with the clothes, we had to think about how we could make clothes that had a positive impact on the environment instead of the typical negative impact that most clothing brands or most apparel has. And we didn't find this for the longest time. So we spent probably a year or a year and a half with the idea of, okay, wanting to do clothes, but we didn't know how to do it until we actually came across a textile mill in Italy that they do something very interesting. So they salvage ocean waste. So these nylon nets,
Okay.
from the ocean, and they regenerate this nylon into fiber that is recycled, obviously, because it's regenerated from these nets, but it's also recyclable, meaning that if you give this material back to the mill, then they can regenerate it again into more yarn, which can be used to make new products. So it's kind of a circular, it's cyclic in sense of it's truly sustainable because it's recycled and recyclable. So infinitely, you can keep on recycling the same material into um, newer articles of clothing or anything that can be made from that fabric. So that was very interesting to us in the moment. We
Okay, so just to ask you here that just like let's forget for a second that I know anything about sustainability, climate change, climate action, or environment.
Right.
So because this is one of my recent experiences, I was in a store and there was this one pair of leggings, and it was made out of some recycled material.
Yeah.
I tried it on, and like the way it felt to me was like it was so much itchy. Like it felt the fabric was just not good and not very comfortable, and like the kind of person I need comfortable clothing. So are your clothes like it's good that they have an environmental impact, it's positive environmental impact, it's good that they're sustainable.
Right.
From a consumer's point of view, what kind of customer experience is your clothes giving to the customer? I want each and every listener to know that.
Sure. So, like I said earlier, that number one, when we launch a new product, is performance, right? Even before sustainability, we always focus on performance first, because we understand that a consumer is paying for a certain kind of experience, and sustainability second, because that is something
Yes.
that's personal to us, right? Like we don't care whether the consumer really cares about it being a sustainable brand or not, but he's paying for performance. Sustainability is an added bonus for him, right? So this particular cloth is it worked so well for us that we actually renamed the whole range of clothing after it. So it's super soft. We call our clothing buttR apparel because it's actually
buttR.
as soft as butter. It's super high performance. It's actually made to be used for active wear, typically in colder climates. But then we spoke to the manufacturer and they changed a little bit of their processes to make it more adaptable to tropical climates as well. So it's super soft, super
Yes.
high performance, four-way stretch, squat proof. It's got basically everything that you could hope for in a pair of pants, and the added advantage is that it's 100% recycled.
Pockets too.
It's got two pockets now. So we started with one pocket. We got a lot of feedback. So we, like I said, we do that a lot. We speak to our consumers and our customers very, very often. At least once a month, we have some kind of a conversation with them. So every time we're launching something new, we speak to them and say, you know what, this is what we have in the pipeline. This is what we're thinking about. What do you guys think we should do? And they've been very, very generous with their feedback. So we launched the first pair of pants had one pocket, and everyone said we want one more pocket on the other side. So then we have two pockets. But yeah, so the whole clothing range is made from this super soft, super durable, recycled fabric. You should actually, I'm gonna have a pair sent over to you because you need to try it. It's really, really so. It's probably the softest.
Wow, thank you. I'm super excited.
I'm not saying that because it's our brand, but it's it's really a phenomenal material, and it does have its drawbacks. It's extremely expensive, so it probably costs us more to make our clothes than our competitors sell their clothes at. So it definitely has a huge drawback, but we understand the value in investing in the long term, right? And people that use the product once will definitely come back, and they understand why they should be spending that kind of money to invest in articles like ours. So yeah.
And on that note, I have heard some of the people saying, I was in one of the classes where someone mentioned to me that, can you like suggest me a brand or some material which have like really good yoga leggings, because the ones the the brands that she was using used to give her blisters on the skin. They used to get her rashes on the skin.
Right.
So I feel that that is definitely a pain point, and especially for people like, for example, yoga teachers who do yoga, like more than say 1 hour a day, because they're taking classes, they're in that constant process.
Right.
And I have seen people who genuinely, live in the fitness wear.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. So I'm in an athleisure or whatever, active wear, whatever you call it, all the time. So is Herneath. We kind of live this lifestyle. So we understand that comfort is of utmost importance, right? It's very, very
Yes.
important that you're comfortable and you feel good in what you're wearing. And once you put on a pair of pants or a pair
And
of
I think that is what is yeah.
yeah, you kind of understand, why you spend that money and where it's come from.
Yes. No, I totally agree. And I think that is what your product is reflecting now.
I mean, we just started. We launched the entire range last year. Entire range is 4 different types of clothing. But yeah, it's been encouraging. We've seen a lot of positive feedback. A lot of the comments and reviews we've got have been very, very motivating. People say that it feels like you're wearing nothing, or I can't believe this is a fishing net. I can't believe this is 100% nylon. How is it so soft? It's softer than this brand, softer than that brand, and it just feels like so amazing to read comments like this, where you've spent your time, your
Yes.
effort, your money in making something, and now people are seeing why you've done it. So I mean, that's a great feeling. And yeah, hopefully in the few years to come, we'll have a wider range of apparel that's more inclusive for everyone.
Yes.
That's the plan.
And I'm sure that you're going to achieve it, because again, like because your why is beautiful, the way you're doing is amazing, and the kind of above all, the kind of customer experience you're providing is good. So like, one of the things that I was reading, one of the research papers which mentioned that climate solutions really have to penetrate the zones of comfort and convenience,
Right.
because that is when people are gonna adopt it. They're gonna make it a part of their lifestyle.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it,
So I feel that you're hitting the hammer like on the right place.
if you look at it from just the general perspective also, like you're not going to spend, like, I get it, everyone cares, no one wants to buy products that harm the planet, right? Everyone at some point or the other has thought about how they can have a positive impact, but again, when you buy a certain product, you expect it to function a certain way, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Like, for example, if I buy a pair of shoes, I want them to have a certain amount of grip or give me some certain amount of performance, right? If they don't do that and they're 100% sustainable, I'll never buy them, right? What's the point of me buying? Or even if I buy them, I'll never use them. I'll just buy a normal pair and then I'll feel good that I have a sustainable pair, but I'll use something completely different. So the objective has always been to focus on performance, number one. And once we nail that down, then we look at what is the most sustainable way of doing it. And so far, it's worked pretty well for us. I just hope that we can stay true to this belief and this way of working in the longer run also.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna happen.
Also, Alok, tell me this thing that, as we were talking about this earlier, only that it took you 4 years to be where you are today. And, so I'm sure that these 4 years were not easy for you. So, were there any points in your journey when there were no sales, when you were stressing about ki sales nahi aa rahi hai, like people not buying the product? So, how did you nurture Kosha from literally the ground bottom?
Right. So, I mean, as any entrepreneur will tell you, and you've interviewed so many of them on your show, right? So I'm sure everyone's got the same experience. Like, it's a roller coaster ride, right? It's never like a straight line that is never a straight line graph. So obviously, I mean, there were lots of ups and downs, lots of challenges, lots of times when we had our doubts as to, why are we doing this? Is this actually going to work? Where do we see it going? How long will it take us to get there, etc. So when we started, for example, we started just doing yoga mats. Our yoga mats were 8 times as expensive as the average yoga mat available in the market, right? And that's ridiculous. No one's going to pay 8 times more money for
What
a
was the price
commodity.
then?
So we started selling yoga mats at 3,500. Just to give you context, today our yoga mats sell at around 7,500, right? So the market has changed. People are evolving, and we were were on a right
Yes.
trend. But yeah, so things as simple as that, and when we were selling at 3,500, we were actually trying to keep the profit margins as low as possible. We knew that we had to provide value to people at an affordable price, because otherwise, like, even though they see value in the product, they're not going to spend that kind of money, right? So in terms of challenges, we face a ton of them. Even when in terms of being able to find a manufacturer, we knew very early on what kind of product we wanted, but it took us around 8 months to find someone who was even willing to try to make something along the lines that we wanted, right? So it took us 8 months to get like a first sample. In those 8 months, obviously, every day we were like, why are we doing this? There's no reason. Besides the fact that it would give me immense joy, right? I would be very happy calling up people, asking them if they could make a particular mat, and then people telling me, no, we can't do it, and then no one's going to do it in such a small quantity for you. So challenges are always there, but I think challenges are more of an opportunity, because you get to learn so much more from them, right? Like every time a vendor told me that no, we can't do this, I'm asking like, okay, and I know you can't do it, but why can't you do it? Is it something to do with a particular ingredient in the material? Is it something to do with quantity, the styles that we want? What is your challenge? So then the next time I spoke to someone, I knew where he's coming from, right? And he would give me a different list of answers that on why he couldn't do it. But at the end of it,
Yes.
when I finally found someone who could do all of it, I knew what the challenges were that he was going to face, and I knew that okay, these are certain things we can compromise on, these are things that we can't compromise on. So all of those, like trials and tribulations, kind of help you along the way. And at that point in time, like in your journey, you probably think that is the worst thing possible and you're never going to get out of it. But when you look back, you understand why you had to go through that whole process, right? So yeah, I mean, challenges, and they never stop. It's not like, first of all, we're not really
Never stop.
well established or a well known brand yet. And it's not like the challenges have stopped, it's gotten easier. They change, obviously, because now there are much bigger challenges that we need to overcome, and much bigger obstacles that we face, but they are constantly there. And I think you need to, I mean, if you're getting onto this journey, you need to keep that in mind, and be okay with it, that there's going to be a lot of problems on the way, but these are not actual problems, right? These are just um, lessons, right? You're supposed to learn from these, and once you
Yes.
understood what the lesson is when you probably will get over it, and then you'll have another challenge. So yeah.
But Alok, like some of the things, like like especially when we are in our down phases, all these statements somehow just seem like statements. So there was a time when we were going through an extreme challenge. Someone told me that, Shweta, it does not matter how you behave when times are good. What you do when time is low is actually going to decide what's going to happen in the future. And there, so, and Alok, as you were also mentioning it to me, at that point of time you were also thinking ki aur kitna time lagega. So I want to ask from you, Alok, for any entrepreneur who is stuck in this phase, of say not getting sales, or for any reason, what would you say to that person who is questioning herself or himself regularly कि और कितना टाइम मुझे ये करना पड़ेगा या और कितना टाइम मुझे लगेगा? So what would be your message to that particular person?
I mean, so if someone is saying "और कितना time लगेगा," I think then they're in the wrong line of work, because that question is never going to stop. To be honest, right? You're never going to at some point get up in the morning and say, "Okay, I've made it. My company has reached its maximum potential, and now I'm just on the top of the world, and
Yeah.
that's it. There's nothing more for me to do. It's never going to happen." So if you're thinking along those lines, that how much time till I make it, you're honestly never going to make it. So stop thinking.
Yeah.
One thing that helped us, at least personally, on this journey for me, so I don't know how relevant it'll be to all of your listeners, but we did not quit our jobs, right? So when we started Kosha, we knew that it was a risk, we knew there were challenges, and we knew that it would take a lot more effort on our part if we did this on the side. But we also knew that, if we put any kind of expectations too early onto the business, then the way we functioned would be influenced by those external pressures. Like, for example, if we relied solely on Kosha for our livelihood, then we would have a very high expectation in terms of revenue that we would need just to sustain, right? Or the amount of marketing money we had to spend would be insane. And if we had ended up spending that, we would never make it to where we are. So if you are taking this step towards entrepreneurship, I would always recommend, like, do it in a very slow manner. Like, you hear about it all the time. I said this before also. You hear about it all the time. People raise money in ridiculous amounts of ridiculously short periods. So when someone gets funded in 6 months, 8 months, and people have this notion about just exploding on the scene. I don't think it's really possible, at least in a space like ours, unless like it's tech or something. But in a space like ours, I think you need to be patient. You need to give it time. You need to understand that it is a process. Challenges are always going to be there, and you need to just accept that. Like, there are going to be days when you feel like you don't want to do it, and that's fine. Like, take a day off. If you reach your goal 2 months later, then you had planned. But if you reach it in a way that is true to yourself and true to the reason why you're doing it, then I think that's perfectly fine, right? So yeah, to someone who's struggling right now, I think if the reason that you're doing what you're doing is true, then just have faith. It is going to work out. It's just a question of when. It's not a question of if it's going to work out or not. So you just need to kind of hang in there.
I think the figuring out phase is one of the most, I would say, difficult and one of the most challenging phases, when you are just figuring out that, like the product market fit, you call it, or whatever fancy terms we give it. Also, Alok, one of the things that I read, like one of my previous guests actually mentioned it somewhere, that, when the water is in the opposite direction and you are swimming, so it's difficult to swim in that water, but, at that point, your core muscles are getting strengthened. And the moment the waves will be in your direction, it will be automatically be a boost to you. So sometimes I feel that we are just preparing ourselves. These are drills that are preparing ourselves for, something good that's going to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like I said, you need to have faith, right? Like, you need to understand that the challenges you're going through are
Right.
fine. They look like obstacles, and they look like, and to be honest, like in the moment, it is going to look like it's too big, right? Like it's insurmountable. You don't know if you're
Yeah.
actually going to get through. For example, we had our second shipment of mats were completely messed up, right? Like, fully, the specifications were totally off, and that was probably all of the money that we had saved and made over the last year. So something like that, and that happens to everyone, right? But it is what you do with that challenge. So
What did you do then, Alok? Like,
so
tell me
so
that when
what
that
we
happened
did
to you, what
was
did you do?
what we did was very interesting. So specifications went wrong. We have a mat that is 3.5 mm thick, right? It's supposed to be around 2.5 kgs when we actually got the shipment. And we do quality checks, right? So we see when it comes out of the factory, we
Right.
get images and videos of the mats being tested for specification. So in the quality report, we see things are fine, weight is okay, thickness is okay. We get the shipment here, we find that maybe 3 or 4% of the entire shipment has that particular weight and specification. The rest are all half, right? Straight up. So it's like 1.2 kgs and it's around 1.5 mm. And we have a ton of this stuff to sell. And what do you do? Like, it's a good product still, right? We would never sell a product that
Yes.
is technically inefficient or not good, because that just harms the brand. But
Not
it was
as
not
good. Yeah.
to the specifications we had made. So what we did is very quickly just rebranded them as travel mats, because they're so much lighter and so much more easier to travel with. And then we had a range of travel products. So for the so if you go back in our journey, we started off doing a full-blown yoga mat, and then 6 months down the line, suddenly you see we have no yoga mats, we have travel yoga mats, and then 6 months after that, you see we have a very stable range of yoga mats at different thicknesses, different designs, all of that. But you're going to face issues like this all the time, and
Yes.
I think if you are true to the journey, right? Like, if you enjoy doing what you're doing and you look at it as a challenge, and you look at it as something that is fun to overcome, right? And you say, okay, now this has happened. What can I do in the most creative way possible to get over this? And then that becomes like a fun exercise. So yeah,
Yes.
I think these challenges never stop.
That's pretty interesting, Alok. And like my next question to you would be like, this is the last question before we enter into the rapid fire segment. So, Alok, I'm assuming this, and please do correct me if I'm wrong here, that I'm assuming that both of you, like you and Harneet, you were not sustainability professionals, or you are not hardcore into researchers into sustainable manufacturing. So, in such a scenario, how did you guys manage to create a brand that's truly sustainable? Like from say the material you are using to the entire processing.
Right, you're absolutely right. So neither of us have any experience in sustainability of any kind, at least professionally. For us, it's very simple. Sustainability, is a buzzword maybe, and it might seem a bit overwhelming to regular folk also. But where we come from is, we see we approach it as a conscious consumer, right? So we are very conscious about the decisions we make. We don't say that we are sustainable in terms of our in terms of the way we live, but we always think before we buy products or before we do anything, basically, on what the larger
Mindful,
impact is.
basically
Yeah,
mindful
mindfulness,
living.
exactly. So
Yeah.
even with the brand, right, we knew that Ahimsa had to be a cornerstone because it is something that is one of the foundations of yoga, right? So we always knew that all our activities would have a positive impact. Now, how this is going to happen is something we had no idea, right? But we just knew that this is what is going to happen, and this is something we won't compromise on, right? Number one is performance. Number two is that it has to have a positive impact. We're not defining what this positive impact is, but the impact is positive. Now, it could be on the planet, it could be on our people, it could be on our pets, anything, right? So I think if you are looking at starting a sustainable brand, don't get overwhelmed because there's so much information out there. But just take a step back, and if you are actually thinking about doing something sustainable, then you have that mindset where you know at least what is right and wrong, right? Right? You won't use single-use plastic. You won't use it in your packaging or anywhere in your office if you are truly if you have that thought in your mind. So just work on that, right? One step at a time, and if you um, you know stay true to your ethos, then I think you're sustainable over there.
And also to add to that question only, I want to know this thing from you. Like, if there is someone who has a limited supply of capital, so how tough is the journey to establish and make, repeat customers?
Um, not it's not at least to make repeat customers is not tough at all, to be honest. It just so look like capital is one part of the puzzle, right? But then if you have limited amount of resources, there's always somewhere you can make up, right? For example, you have less amount of money, but you can spend it creatively, or you can put more effort into servicing your customers. So I'll give you a very very quick example. When we started, we knew for a fact that we had only 3 lakhs, okay, to start everything. That included and this was a part of money we'd saved up, and we've saved up only for a business, right? So we said, okay, this is what we have. We had no idea how much it was going to cost us to do anything, but this is what we had, and because of that, we knew that we could spend zero money on marketing in the first 12 months, and we literally spent no money on marketing, right? What we would do is personally talk to yoga teachers in our circle, personally go to their classes. These are things that you can control and not going to cost you anything. Have a conversation with people actually practicing, see if they actually have the same experiences as you, and then tell them that, what, look at this mat, this is something that we came up with. Not sell it to them, just show it to them. So, I mean, having a limited amount of resources is not going to really stop you from fulfilling your dream. It's going to make you think in a more creative manner. It's going to make you allocate those resources in a smarter way, and that is actually going to benefit you in the long run. Because if we had money now, I mean, if we had the money that we have now back then I think we would have made a disaster with Kosha. It would never have been what it is right now. Right? The fact that we are where we are is because we did what we did with what we had, which is nothing. So honestly, for the first 1 year, our marketing budget was 0 rupees. The next year, our marketing budget was around between 5 to 8,000 rupees a month, and in that, we made a lot of strides happen. Like we made some really really cool stuff happen, including association with Jacqueline Fernandez, tying up with the biggest yoga teachers, influencers in the country, and all of this has been we've not paid for anyone at any point in time. Right? This has all been through us taking that extra effort of speaking to people, giving them a call, going and meeting them, just talking about our mindset, where we're coming from, and if they resonate to that, then they automatically want to be a part of your journey and help you get to where you want to go. So I don't think capital is too much
And
of
I think, yeah,
an issue to.
not only it just helps you put not only it just helps you push you out of the box, but also I feel that people connect to it, like if your wife, why you're doing it, they see, or like they sense the kind of hard work and the kind of struggle or the kind of passion you are putting into what you're doing, and that is what people connect with.
Add on to what you were saying, I think you just need to be authentic, right? Like if the reason you started the business
Yeah.
is something you truly believe in, and you can communicate that
Yes.
belief to other people, then that's it. Then it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen or not. But I think that first bit is something that you need to spend a lot of time, making sure you get right as to, fine, I think this is going to work, but why do I want to solve this problem, right? Like 1,000 people could
Yes.
see the same problem and want to try and solve it, but why am I solving it? Because I feel a certain way about it. And if you can tap on that and be true to
Agreed.
that, then I think you have a winner.
And being true to that, you actually enabling a lot of people to see the world from your lens, to help them enter your world and to see what you are able to see, and once they connect with it, bravo.
Yeah. Touch wood, so far it's worked pretty well.
So Alok, this is the last segment, and it's like a rapid fire segment, so let's begin. So Alok, tell me, what will make your journey easier today?
What will make my journey easier is having a much larger team that can take a lot of workload off of us, because right now it's a small team. We do a lot ourselves. I don't know if it's good or not, but yeah, what I think would make my life easier is having a bigger team.
Okay. So, what does the, I say it, ummeed in your heart or the hope in your heart says you right now?
For Kosha, like,
What hope do you had for, say, Kosha? Yeah.
so we're very clear as to what we want Kosha to be. Yoga has originated from India, and it's sad that there's no Indian origin brand in this space. So we are going to be the brand for yoga and anything related to yoga and wellness that comes out of India.
What are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for so many things, to be honest, but with regards to my professional life, I'm grateful for waking up in the morning and not feeling this immense sense of dread that I have to go to work. I love doing what I do. I do all the time. I'm thinking about my work every second of the day, and I absolutely love it. Like if I'm in the gym, if I'm in the pool, if I'm playing tennis, or if I'm having a shower, I'm always something related to Kosha is going on. It could be if I'm shopping on a website, I see the website, I'm thinking about how to, what part of this website is so amazing, and how can I backward
It
integrate it into our
happens,
website.
right?
It does. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm living
Yes.
I'm living the business, and I love that. I mean, I can't. I'm so grateful that I get to do that, right? Like now I can't envision myself going back to a job or doing anything else where I don't feel as happy as I am right now. Yeah, so I'm grateful for that.
I'm so happy for you, Alok. I'm so happy for you. So, give me a thing about Harneet as a co founder, as a team player that has acted as a blessing to the brand, the customers, your overall growth, and your overall vision with Kosha.
So I think there would be no Kosha without her need, to be honest, because like I said, she has spent so much time, a part of the practice. For me, yoga was always, at least in my more naive days, I looked at yoga more as a form to recover from injury or like stretching and stuff like that, because I've always been a sports person. But she actually has so much experience practicing yoga from a young age, and we could really leverage that knowledge that she had about yoga, its philosophies, not only the physical side of the practice, but also the mental benefits, the emotional benefits, and those honestly
Yeah.
greatly outweigh the physical, right? So she brings all of that to the table. She lends so much credibility and authenticity to the brand that without her, again, Kosha would not exist. So yeah, that's what she brings to the table.
We are extremely, proud of Harneet for doing what she has done. So, Alok, the last one would be, give me one song that you can relate to, or a song that gives you the motivation.
A song. Okay. So I'm a huge hip hop fan. There's a song called Hustle and Motivate by Nipsey Hussle, right? I think that it talks about, obviously, like the name suggests, it talks about his methods on how you should stay motivated and how you should overcome challenges. So yeah, I think for me that's a song that's like my go-to song anytime
Alok,
I'm feeling
how could
down.
you do this? Like this is your favorite song, and how can you do this? You just have to give us two lyrics for that. Come
There's
on, let's
no
do it,
way.
Alok.
There's no way. I'm probably the worst. If it's
Okay,
so
just
bad.
give. Okay, don't sing. Just give me one lyric. Give me. Come on, come on, come on.
So in the song, he talks about how he makes his first million, right? Um, so he says that I ain't really trip on the credit. I just paid all of my dues, right? Um, I disrespected the game, and now my name is all up in the news. So basically, he's talking about not really, chasing money or fame or any kind of street credibility. What he's talking about is just being able to pay his dues, make sure that whatever he owes to society or to the opportunities he has, just stay true to that, and then fame follows.
Amazing, Alok. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. I had a little chat with you about your journey, and it's truly inspiring. I don't know if people know this or not, but I mean, just the fact that you chose to pursue your passion and turn it into a profession, that takes serious amount of courage. So, well done. Kudos to you. Keep up the great work. And if
No, thank you, Alok. And just to end on that note, I would say it takes a serious amount of courage to get a music lyric out of Alok from Kosha Yoga. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Alok from Kosha Yoga. Thank you, Alok.
thank you so much, Shweta.